Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Today, July 22nd, 2015, there is new news in the Dylann storm roof, Charleston, South Carolina church shooting hoax. It is that a federal grand jury has returned a 33 count indictment against Dylann, and he is set to go on trial July 11th, 7/11/2016. Loretta Lynch is a part of this story. Truth Seeker, if you have not seen my video on Loretta Lynch, just do a search in your search bar, type in Zachary K. Hubbard, Loretta Lynch. I did a few videos on her. They're all worth watching. It'll just show you how big this numerological conspiracy is and how often these same numbers get coded. Loretta Lynch is as big of a joke as this church shooting hoax. Again, that 33 count indictment, that ties in with the number of race wars, something I've been talking about on this video blog since I created it. I created this video blog in the wake of the Michael Brown shooting. I wanted to show the conspiracy of 33 and all of these race war incidents, from Trayvon Martin to Rodney King to Sean Bell and a whole lot more. When I started this video blog, I predicted that the officer's name in the Michael Brown shooting would end up having a 33 name before it was announced. And sure enough, it did. That's how I earned my first group of subscribers. Since then, I've decoded I don't know how many more things. Hundreds more, all showing how these same numbers get coded over and over and over. Notice how this article here about his 33 count was posted at 3:22. These numbers are all very important to Christianity. Notice that Calhoun, it was 110 Calhoun Street that this shooting happened at the church. Calhoun has the 322 gematria, and in simple English, 74. In terms of Christianity, the original publishing date for the Bible was March 22nd, 322, once upon a time. This is the most commonly reported date. Even websites such as Christianity.com acknowledge this, 322, a number now associated with Yale Skull and Bones. Of course, 74 is the number of Jesus, the number of cross, the number of Yeshua, the number of Joshua, the English translation of Jesus. Jesus was crucified on the cross. Both words was 74 gematria at the age of 33. In this case, there was all sorts of 74. Dylann storm roof equals 74. He was arrested on Interstate 74. He shot up Bible study class, which has gematria of 74. The shooting came 74 days after the shooting of Walter Scott. The founder of the church, Morris Brown, has named gematria of 74. Very important numbers to Christianity and this church shooting, which, of course, was a very Christian-centered event. And then here, adding insult to injury, they have to bring that number 33 into the equation. Also, when you think of crosses, you'll think of the word crucifix. Crucifix has the gematria of 93. Dylann storm roof was born on April 3rd, the 93rd day of the year. One more point. This July 11th, 2016 date, the date his trial is supposed to begin, has numerology of 54 and 34. That's interesting because the words love and hate have gematria of 54 and 34 respectively. And this is a trial about hate crimes. When you think of hate, naturally, the word love will come up too. Also, since I began this video blog, I talk about how the numbers 33 and 113 are often coded into all the major hoaxes. Right now, there is this campaign in mainstream media about the Emmanuel 9, and the tagline is, "Never forget, never forget." And every time I hear it, it just makes me want to vomit, because it's said in this demonic voice, and it's spoken to a public of people who are ignorant to the fact that their mainstream media is a psychological operation meant to deceive them, meant to distort their perceptions in their mind, meant to infuriate them, meant to provoke them, meant to divide and conquer them in so many ways, not just among race, but among religion, among party, among essentially everything we can be divided by. Our mainstream media works on all of us in this way. So anyway, they keep saying Emmanuel 9, never forget, in remembrance to the 9 people who were supposedly killed. Notice the gematria of Emmanuel 9 is 113. Just like the words mainstream, dishonest, green screen. The mainstream media is ran by Zionist, Masonic Jews. They run a lot more than the media. But in their holy book, Bava Kama A113, it says a Jew can circumvent a Gentile by lying to them. And if you take the time to read the Talmud, there's a whole bunch more that's equally as disturbing as this rule. Within this book, all sorts of disgusting things are granted as Jewish privilege, including the right to molest children. Of course, you can read other religious holy books and make these same kind of distinctions and same kind of arguments, but the fact is, it is written, and in the case of things such as 113, it is openly coded over all these hoaxes, and just look at how nicely it ties together. With regards to the word Emmanuel alone, it has simple English gematria of 71. 71 itself has gematria of 144, mark of the beast, another number specific in the Christian Bible. Throughout the year, we've seen 52 and 144 coded together. Both Dylann Roof, the shortened name, and Charleston have gematria of 52. You add the storm, his name becomes 74. Dylann Storm Roof. Very unbelievable name. With regards to 9 people dying, 9 has the simple English gematria of 42, a number often coded on black Americans, along with 59. They even said Dylann Storm Roof was 5'9", 5'9". Both the words 9 and 5 have gematria of 42. None of the other numbers do, just 9 and 5. Interesting how 59 and 42 are coded on black Americans throughout history. Look at the N-word. Look at the gematria. 597759 with a sum of 42, but that double 59 coding within. With regards to the Emmanuel 9, it reminds of the Charleston 9, who died on June 18th. The Emmanuel 9 died on June 17th, 8 years later. But the Charleston 9, this story is also very curious. This was the largest death of a group of firefighters post 9/11 since the date of September 11th. They died between the times of 7 p.m. and 4 a.m. Those numbers 7 and 4 again, just like coded all over the church shooting. In the address, look at it, Truth Seeker, 1807. Drop the 0, you're left with 187, the police code for homicide. 187. What do you think, Truth Seeker? What are the odds? 9, 9, almost on the same day. Same city. With regards to these Emmanuel 9, the ones we're focusing on here because of the church shooting, the most hype has been made about Clementa Pinckney. Clementa Pinckney, the former senator in South Carolina. This is the image of him at the funeral. A lot of people have pointed out that this man does not look like this man, who is Clementa Pinckney. You know, perhaps when you die, you look a little bit different, but people have made a lot of observations, including the ears. The ears sit lower on this man's head than they do on Clementa Pinckney's. Anyway, just looking at all this, Truth Seeker, it made me want to go back and see where this name Pinckney comes from, because it's a name very specific to Charleston and once upon a time the Civil War. So looking it up in history, the name Pinckney reminds me of the modern-day Bush family political dynasty. Once upon a time, there was this Pinckney family, which was the most powerful political family in South Carolina. Here's October 29th, 1758, before the nation was even established. The nation wouldn't be established for 18 more years. Charles Pinckney was the Attorney General of the province of South Carolina as of the year 1733. That's so special year. The number 33 has always been very important to the Supreme Court. That's another topic, but all of this stuff connects. So this name Pinckney traces back to before the nation began. One of the Pinckneys was one of the original signers on the Constitution. Another member of this family, another Charles Pinckney, became the 37th governor of South Carolina. Named Charles Pinckney, having gematria of 73, the reflection of 37. The name Clementa Pinckney also has gematria of 73. Clementa and Charles, a lot alike. His date of birth, this former governor of South Carolina sharing the name with Clementa, has numerology of 110. Remember, the church shooting happened at 110 Calhoun Street, 110, a very important number in history. The World Trade Centers were 110 stories tall. They were proposed by the Rockefeller family. Rockefeller has gematria of 110. The blame for them coming down was Osama bin Laden, a name with 110 gematria. And Osama bin Laden was the biggest boogeyman for the United States since Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler equals 110. Adolf Hitler was born April 20th, the 110th day of the year. He was president. The word president has gematria of 110. So these numbers of great significance is the point. Also, his date of birth has numerology of 93. Another very important number. As we said, Dylann Stormroof, born on the 93rd day of the year. The word crucifix having that gematria of 93. Words such as propaganda also have gematria of 93. Moving on in the nation's history, there was also Charles Cotesworth Pinckney, known as CC, C the third letter, like 3-3. Remember, the first Masonic lodge in the history of the nation was established outside of Charleston. These men were very important in terms of the Revolutionary War. In terms of the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, South Carolina, the Carolinas were very key. Notice that Civil War has gematria of 43, just like Charleston, just like the name Pinckney. In terms of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, blamed for it beginning, was born on the 43rd day of the year, February 12th. Clementa Pinckney, with the 43 name gematria, died 43 days before his 42nd birthday. The word war has simple English gematria of 42. World War III, which many say is already planned, has gematria of 170 in simple English, just like the name Clementa Pinckney. And again, these Pinckneys have a history of being connected to major wars. When Obama was speaking about Clementa Pinckney at the funeral, he continuously referred to him as Clem, a word with 33 gematria. At that funeral, there were all sorts of signs, Truth Seeker. One of the main speakers was Reverend Dr. Kalon Middleton, a name with 96 gematria. A last name with 42 gematria. That number coded all over Black Americans. What do you think, Truth Seeker? You think that's Clementa Pinckney? When his name is written this way, Clementa C. Pinckney, Pythagorean gematria, it nets that numerology of 74 as well, that oh so important number. And then here's Dylann Stormroof, who was arrested in Shelby, North Carolina. More gematria of 43. Are you seeing how the hoaxes all come together, Truth Seeker? All the numbers I've reported since the first video, repeated over and over and over. And still I get the same criticism. People saying it's all just coincidence. These coincidence theorists are a real threat to our existence. So the next time you hear that phrase, Emmanuel 9, never forget, know what it's really about. Provoking people. Filling up their minds, having them never forget a lie, so that they live by the lie. This really needs to stop, truth seeker. A world that runs on hoaxes. They hoax us for so many reasons. So many people ask, why would they do this to us? But the answers are so obvious. The people who ask those questions, the fact that they can't generate answers for themselves is very concerning. The reason we're lied to so much is because it keeps us in a state of anxiety, a level that makes us a lot more easier to control and manipulate. So many people in this world feel so powerless because they're so beat down with stories like this over and over, a history of this over and over. One more thing, truth seeker. I want to show you one more thing about this Clementa Pinckney. All right, truth seeker. So the next thing we're going to watch is Senator Clementa Pinckney talking about the Walter Scott shooting hoax as if it is a real thing. And recall, this shooting hoax happened 74 days before the church shooting on the 47-year anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Again, nobody who is intelligent, nobody who has a working brain believes the Walter Scott shooting is real, who has seen this footage. Let's watch, and then we'll carry on. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated April 4th, 1968. And then he falls after about the 8th shot. He didn't respond to any of the bullets. Remember, the officer's name, Michael Swaggart, sums to 113, that number that gets coded so much, just like Emmanuel 9. Done posts on him. Shit. Handcuffing the guy he supposedly just shot to death. There's no blood anywhere. No blood. Oh, shit. So there he just threw that prop down. The mainstream media made a big deal about that, how they supposedly planted evidence by him. But what the big deal should really be about is how fake this whole thing looks. And if this were real, these cops would be all over this kid recording this thing right now. They wouldn't tolerate this for a second. What this really is, Truth Seeker, is probably another drill, another simulation, and then they record it, package it, and present it with the bogus storyline that the mainstream media gives us, and that the sheeple accept. No one's called the paramedics. This guy was shot at least 8 times. Not a drop of blood anywhere. I mean, where is the blood? All right, so the name Walter Scott, the victim we just saw, 156 gematria, just like South Carolina. If you're new here, these are important numbers because they connect to God. And with regards to 74, the number coded all over the church shooting, the Walter Scott shooting coming 74 days before, think about this nation's birthday, July 4th. Another one of these coded tributes to God. Walter Scott's name was also referred to as Walter L. Scott, which sums to 168. June 17th, the date of the church shooting, is the 168th day of the year. So anyway, my point is that is a very obvious, very deliberate hoax, completely undeniable. Now let's watch Clementa Pinckney talk about the importance of getting more cameras because of this shooting. Watch.
Thank you. Senator from Jasper, what purpose do your eyes serve?
Mr. President, on the next available day, would like to ask that we would adjourn the Senate in honor of Mr. Walter Scott of North Charleston.
Without objection, so ordered.
And that also that the unanimous consent that the senator from Charleston's words be printed in the journal.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I would also ask unanimous consent on the point of personal interest.
Proceed with personal interest.
Now, maybe I'm ignorant here, but I found it interesting that that judge is draped in purple. Again, purple has gematria of 88, just like the word poison equals 88, just like the word program equals 88.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, as I stand here today, I'm reminded of one of our former colleagues who, though small in stature, stood tall in moments in which the soul of the state, and in particular the soul of the Senate, of this body, was called into question, or at least challenged us to rise to a higher level. And I'm referring to
Jasper has gematria of 33, Pythagorean S-exception, just like his nickname Clem.
the great senator from Richland County, Senator Kay Patterson, who from time to time would rise and remind us of the greatness of this august body. Today, the nation looks at South Carolina and is looking at us to see if we will rise to be the body and to be the state that we really say that we are. Over this past week, many of us have seen on the television, have read in newspapers, and have seen all the reports about Walter Scott, who, in my words, was murdered in North Charleston. It has really created a real heartache and a yearning for justice. People, and not just in the African American community, but for all people, and not just in the Charleston area or even in South Carolina, but across our country. The senator from Charleston, Senator Kempson, along with the senator from Darlington, Senator Malloy, along with many co-sponsors that have been mentioned, senators from Charleston, Senator Thurman, Senator from Berkeley, Senator Grooms, have led and are leading a bipartisan effort for us to have body cameras. As we are in the Christian season of Easter, we're reminded of the story of Jesus gathering his disciples in Galilee in the upper room. And in that week following Easter, every disciple was there but one, Thomas. And if you don't mind a small recap of the story, Jesus walks through a locked door, and the disciples see something that they were amazed to see, and that is the living Jesus. And they were able to see the nails in his hands, and they were able to put their hand in his side to prove to them Jesus allowed this so that they would have no doubt. But one person was missing, and that was Thomas. And when Thomas heard the news, he said he didn't believe it. He He said, there's no way, it's impossible. Jesus is dead. There's no way that he came and visited. But the next week, Thomas was there. Jesus walked in. He said, I won't believe until I see the nails. I won't believe until I can put my hand in your side. And it was only when he was able to do that, he said, I believe, my Lord and my God. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, when we first heard on the television that a police officer had gunned down an unarmed African American in North Charleston by the name of Walter Scott, there were some who said, wow, the national story has come home to South Carolina. But there were many who said there is no way that a police officer would ever shoot somebody in the back 6, 7, 8 times. But like Thomas, when we were able to see the video and we were able to see the gunshots, and when we saw him fall to the ground, and when we saw the police officer come and handcuff him on the ground without even trying to resuscitate him, without even seeing if he was really alive, without calling an ambulance, without calling for help, and to see him die face down in the ground as if he were gunned down like game. I believe we all were like Thomas and said, I believe. What if Mr. Santiago was not there to record what happened? I'm sure that many of us would still say, like Thomas, we don't believe. I believe that as a legislature, that as a state, we have a great opportunity to allow sunshine into this process, to at least give us new eyes for seeing, so that we're able to make sure that our proud and great law enforcement officers and every citizen that we represent is able to at least know that they will be seen and heard and that their rights will be protected. It is my hope and desire that in South Carolina, where we have great multinational companies like Boeing, which is located just a stone's throw from where Walter Scott died, where we have a great international airport, and where the ports are not far away from this spot. It is my hope that as South Carolina senators, that we will stand up for what is best and good about our state, and really adopt this legislation and find a way to have body cameras in South Carolina. Our hearts go out to the Scott family. Our hearts go out to the Flagler family, because the Lord teaches us to love all, and we pray that over time that justice be done.
So think about that. Arguing for body cameras when we're talking about an incident that was recorded by camera. You know, they showed us that footage, which we just watched. They showed us the footage caught from another camera of him running from his own car to the park. Cameras are besides the point. We just need a new system entirely. We need to get rid of the scumbag police officers we have. You know, I'm not someone who defends the police. I can't stand the police at all. I think we'd live in a lot safer nation if we didn't have police and we were allowed to police ourselves, because it's the police who are behind so much of the corruption, just like it's the politicians who are behind so much of the corruption, just like it's the media who's behind so much of the corruption. And then you have these guys like Clementa Pinckney, who are very skilled, smooth talkers, complete con men, you know? That's where you find the con men, within the church. I was recently robbed by my own neighbor, somebody who goes to church every Sunday. It's always been my point of view that the reason the religion's here, you know, is so that the con men can hide behind. And there we got to listen to Clementa Pinckney lobby for body cameras as if that's going to do anything, when we're talking about an incident that was entirely recorded on camera. Why? Because we live in a day and age where cameras are everywhere, on every street corner, on everybody's cell phone, and everywhere else. Now they're putting cameras on everybody's cars. You know, we don't need more cameras. That's just part of the police state they're building. Clementa C. Pinckney is one of these willing agents in the building of the police state around us, which is also what all of our politicians are. But how many are willing to be sellouts on the level of taking on a fake name, which he likely did, and, being willing to be submitted for their own fake death, or however you want to put it. So that's pretty much the message, Truth Seeker. All this stuff's super coded. We're getting deceived by actors. Our tax dollars are being used to wage psychological warfare against us and pay for the salaries of the people who willingly do it, such as Clementa C. Pinckney. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time.